Ethan Morales had always believed that the desert was a place that tested not only a person's strength but also their understanding of silence. For years, he worked as a wildlife researcher, spending long weeks following animals across dry valleys, steep cliffs, and endless stretches of rocky land. The Apache mesas had become like a second home to him. He knew the shapes of distant hills, the sound of wind sliding between narrow canyons, and the way the sunlight changed color at different hours of the day. He came to the region again to track an endangered eagle he had been studying for almost 2 years. The bird had been tagged with a small signal device, and the last reading placed it deep inside an unexplored canyon. The place was far from any road, far from cell service, and even farther from the comfort of ordinary human life. But that was the sort of place Ethan felt most alive. He started the journey early in the morning, carrying only what he needed: water, dried food, a notebook, a light tent, and the tracking device. The sun climbed slowly behind him as he walked, and with every hour the heat grew stronger. Still, Ethan felt calm. The desert taught patience, and he had learned it well. Around noon he reached a narrow path between 2 tall cliffs. The tracking device beeped softly, telling him he was close to the eagle. He looked up, hoping to spot the bird gliding through the bright sky. Instead, he saw loose rocks high above him. He paused for a moment, unsure if the small stones that fell were from his own footsteps or from natural shifting. Before he could decide, a sudden crack echoed through the canyon. Ethan stepped back, but the ground moved too fast. A slide of rocks rushed downward. He tried to shield himself, but the fall caught his leg. Pain shot through him. Sharp and unexpected, he fell to the ground as dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe or see. When the dust finally settled, he tried to stand, but the pain in his leg forced him back down. He knew he was injured, though he could not tell how badly. More troubling was the silence around him. The tracking device had stopped beeping. His backpack lay several feet away, and the canyon walls blocked most of the light. He took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. Years of field work had prepared him for emergencies, but this situation was different. He was alone in a place where few people ever walked, and he was not sure how long it would take for someone to find him, if anyone came at all. Time seemed to slow. He could not tell if minutes or hours were passing. The heat faded as the canyon grew cooler, and Ethan felt his eyelids grow heavy. He tried to stay awake, but exhaustion pushed him downward like a soft but steady weight. When he woke again, he was no longer in the canyon. His first thought was confusion. A warm light shone above him, not sunlight, but something softer, like the glow of fire or lanterns. He tried to sit up but felt gentle hands holding him still. His leg was wrapped in cloth, and his backpack lay neatly beside him. He blinked several times, trying to understand where he was. Then he saw them. A group of women stood around him, each one wearing simple clothing made from natural materials. Their hair was tied back, and their eyes studied him with a mix of caution and concern. Their expressions were calm, but their silence carried a sense of careful attention. One of the women, perhaps in her late 30s, stepped toward him. She placed a bowl of water near his hand and spoke in a quiet, steady voice. "You are safe. You were hurt. We brought you here." Ethan swallowed, trying to find his voice. Where am I?" She exchanged a look with the others before answering. "A place where not many people come. We saw the rocks fall and carried you out before the canyon closed." He tried to sit up again, slower this time. The room around him looked handmade walls built from clay, wood, and stone. There were woven blankets, baskets filled with herbs, and a small fire burning in a clay oven. Everything appeared simple but well cared for. "How long was I unconscious?" he asked. "Only a few hours," the woman replied. Her voice was kind, but her eyes held something else, a subtle unease, as if she was still deciding whether he was a threat. Another woman approached, younger, perhaps in her 20s. She offered him a cup of warm tea. "Drink," she said softly. "It helps with pain." Ethan took it carefully. The tea, tasted of desert plants, mild but comforting. As he drank, he noticed something strange. There were no men anywhere, only women, all working quietly, their movements smooth and practiced, as if they were used to taking care of everything themselves. He cleared his throat gently. "Is this a large community?" The older woman hesitated before answering. "Large enough." Her tone suggested she did not want to give too much information yet. Ethan did not push. He understood the importance of trust in isolated places. After a moment, another woman stepped closer, carrying a bundle of clean cloth. "Your leg is not broken, just bruised. You must rest for a few days." "Thank you," Ethan said sincerely. "You saved my life." They exchanged glances again, as if unsure how to respond to gratitude from an outsider. It became clear to Ethan that these women were not used to meeting strangers, especially not men. The thought made him curious, but he stayed quiet. These people had rescued him, and he did not want to seem intrusive. As the hours passed, Ethan slowly observed more of their world. The settlement lay in a wide, hidden valley surrounded by cliffs. Small houses made of earth and stone formed a circle around a central garden. Women of all ages worked there, tending crops, carrying water, weaving, preparing food. Children ran among the homes, laughing gently, though some whispered shyly when they saw him. No one spoke loudly. No one acted carelessly. The entire community moved with a rhythm that felt natural, peaceful, and old, like it had existed long before modern life. Later, when Ethan was strong enough to sit outside for a little while, he listened as the older woman, whom others called Mira, explained their story in careful pieces. She told him they had come to this hidden valley many years ago, after a great disaster cut them off from the outer world. The land had changed. Roads became unsafe. Communication lines failed. The group had relied on one another. And over time, they adjusted to a life without outside contact. Ethan listened closely. Her words were simple, but her expression revealed the weight of many years spent surviving with limited supplies and no outside help. "How long have you been here?" Ethan asked gently. Mira looked at him for a long moment. 15 years. He felt the air shift around them. 15 years was not just a few seasons, it was a lifetime. Children who were running around the settlement had been born here. Some of the younger women had barely seen the outside world. "And no one ever came?" Ethan asked quietly. "No one," she replied. "And we expected no one." Her gaze met his with a meaning he could not fully read: surprise, caution, maybe even fear. For 15 years, their world had been only women, children, and the land that kept them alive. And now, a man unexpected, unknown, had arrived among them. Ethan realized he represented something more than an injured researcher. His presence had changed the balance of a place that depended on stability and trust. Yet, even with their uncertainty, they cared for him. They brought him food, helped him move around, and checked his injury every day. Their kindness was quiet, but sincere. Ethan felt grateful, but he also sensed a story deeper than what they had shared. A story of survival, separation, and choices made long ago. The valley held secrets, and the women who lived there carried memories they did not speak of easily. As night fell and lanterns glowed softly around the settlement, Ethan lay awake, listening to the gentle hum of desert wind drifting through the canyon. He wondered what tomorrow would bring, what questions he could ask, and what answers he might receive. He did not know it yet, but his arrival would soon shift the quiet balance of the hidden community. Their world, untouched for 15 years, was slowly opening again, and they were as unsure of the future as he was. But for now, he rested, unaware of how deeply his path was about to intertwine with the lives of the women who had found him, saved him, and brought him into a story far larger than he ever expected. Ethan woke the next morning to the soft sound of footsteps outside the small clay house where he had been resting. Sunlight entered through the doorway like a warm ribbon, lighting the room with a peaceful glow. His legs still felt sore, but much better than before. He stretched slowly, grateful for the quiet comfort of the place. Soon, a young girl appeared, carrying a bowl of warm grain and fruit. She smiled shyly as she set it beside him, and hurried away before he could say more than a simple thank you. Ethan noticed how everyone in the community moved with gentle purpose. They spoke softly, never rushing, but always busy. The place felt like a living rhythm, steady, calm, and full of unspoken understanding. After breakfast, Mira entered the room. She studied Ethan's leg and nodded. "You heal quickly," she said. "Today you can walk a little." Ethan felt relieved. "I'd like to see more of the valley, if that's all right." Mira hesitated, as if measuring whether he was ready. Then she nodded. "Walk slowly. Do not push yourself." She helped him stand, and together they stepped outside. The valley looked even more beautiful in daylight. Sunlight lay across fields of green plants, and small streams flowed between carefully built stone channels. Clay houses formed a circle around a large garden where several women worked, trimming leaves, carrying baskets, or stirring pots over small outdoor ovens. Children played nearby, laughing softly. Ethan admired the way everything fit together. It was like a world built from patience and cooperation. Mira noticed his expression. "This place is our home," she said simply. "We learn to live with what we have." As they walked slowly along one of the pathways, Ethan saw that many women watched him with quiet curiosity. Some seemed unsure, others simply observant. A few smiled politely when he made eye contact, though their smiles held questions they didn't voice. "Are they worried about me?" Ethan asked softly. Mira looked forward as she walked. "You are unexpected. Change is never easy. 2 are unexpected as 5. Ethan nodded, understanding. He was a stranger who appeared out of nowhere after 15 years without outside visitors. Their caution made sense. As the day continued, Mira introduced him to a few women. First was Lyra, a skilled gardener who taught children how to care for plants. She had warm eyes and spoke gently as she explained how they used seeds from the valley to grow enough food for the entire community. "Every plant matters," Lyra said. "We grow only what we need. Nothing is wasted." Next, Ethan met Celine, who managed water from the streams. She showed him the stone channels that carried water to their fields. "These channels were here when we found the valley," she explained. "We repaired them. Without them, life here would be hard." Every person he met seemed to serve a purpose, like pieces of a puzzle forming a peaceful whole. As they walked farther, Ethan felt a soft breeze move through the valley. Birds perched on branches, and the distant cliff walls rose high, shaped by time and wind. It was a place closed off from the world, yet full of life. Later, when Ethan rested near the central garden, a younger woman named Rhea approached. She appeared thoughtful, watching him for a moment before speaking. "Is it true?" she asked. "The world outside is still there?" Ethan gave her a small smile. "Yes. Life continues. Towns, cities, people, all still there." Rhea looked down at her hands. "We used to wonder, but after so many years, the outside world felt like a story." Her words carried a quiet sadness, as if she had kept that question inside for a long time. "Do you miss it?" Ethan asked gently. Rhea paused. "Sometimes, but this is home now. It is safe, predictable. We understand it." Ethan thought carefully. "Home is where people feel they can breathe. This place must be special to you." Rhea nodded. "It is. But seeing you reminds us the world is bigger than this valley." Before she could say more, Mira called her name, and Rhea hurried away. Ethan watched her leave, sensing a subtle shift in the air. His presence was stirring old questions, maybe even old dreams, among some of the women. Later that afternoon, Ethan found himself sitting near a group of older women weaving baskets. They invited him to sit with them, though they continued their work quietly. Their hands moved quickly, shaping thin reeds into beautiful patterns. One of them, an elder named Nahi, finally spoke. "You must understand something," she said in a voice soft but full of wisdom. "We built our lives here because we needed peace. Peace from the world, peace from confusion. Ethan listened respectfully. We each came here for different reasons, Nahi continued. Some from loss, some from change, some simply to start again. When the world outside became too loud, too uncertain, this valley gave us stillness. Another woman added, stillness became safety, then safety became home. Ethan looked around. It shows. The care you've put into this place. It's remarkable. Nahi's eyes warmed. We are grateful. But your arrival reminds us that stillness cannot last forever. Her words stayed with him. As evening approached, Ethan returned to the house where he was staying. 2 teenage girls brought a plate of warm stew for him and set it down with shy smiles before hurrying away. He appreciated how gently everyone treated him, even if they were unsure about him. While he ate, Mira entered again, carrying a blanket. She studied him with a thoughtful expression. You met many people today, she said. They've all been generous, Ethan replied. Mira nodded slowly. They try to be. But kindness does not erase caution. Ethan understood. I don't want to disturb your peace. I'm grateful for your help and your trust. Mira sat down across from him. You are not disturbing anything. You are simply new. And new things make people think. She hesitated before continuing. Some of the women wonder if your arrival means it is time to reach the outside world again. Others fear change. They believe stepping outside would bring back old pains. Ethan listened carefully. And what do you believe? Mira looked at the doorway, where the sky had begun turning orange with sunset. I believe the world is too big to hide from forever. But I also know that healing takes time. Many here needed these 15 years of quiet to find themselves again. She turned her gaze back to him. Your presence is gentle, but even gentle things create ripples. Ethan took in her words. He had never expected that a simple research trip would lead him into a hidden valley facing questions bigger than survival. This was a community shaped by past choices, long silence, and careful routine. His arrival had reopened thoughts they had not allowed themselves to feel. Just as Ethan was about to speak, a boy ran up to the doorway. He looked excited. Mira, he said. The council wants to meet. Tonight. Mira stood, her expression shifting. Thank you. Go back to your home now. The boy nodded and ran off. Ethan raised an eyebrow. The council? Mira nodded. A group of women who guide this community. They meet only when needed. And tonight, it's because of me? Mira didn't deny it. Your arrival has raised questions. They must discuss what your presence means. Ethan felt a flutter of uncertainty. Do you want me to come? No, Mira said gently. This meeting is for us. For now, you should rest. Tomorrow we will speak again. She left quietly, and Ethan lay back on the woven mat, listening to the soft night sounds outside. Though he could not hear the council's discussions, he imagined their voices carried concern, curiosity, and maybe hope. As he rested, he realized he had stepped into a world balanced like a delicate scale. One small change could tilt everything. And he was that change. The sky darkened, and lanterns glowed across the valley. Somewhere in the distance, women gathered to talk about the future. His future with them, and theirs with him. Meanwhile, Ethan drifted into sleep, unaware of the decisions forming behind quiet doors. He did not know whether they would fear his presence or welcome it, whether he would stay long or be asked to leave, but he sensed something important. This community was stronger than it appeared, yet softer inside than most people might ever guess. And tomorrow, their story would shift again slowly, gently, like the valley itself. Ethan woke early the next morning, though he had slept lightly. His mind kept returning to the idea of the council meeting, what they discussed, what they decided, and how his presence might change their lives. The valley was peaceful, but beneath the calm he could feel a quiet uncertainty, like the air before a storm that never fully arrives. When he stepped outside, the sky was a soft blue, touched with pale pink. A few women were already working in the fields, moving carefully between rows of plants. Others carried baskets of fresh fruit, talking in quiet voices. Nothing seemed rushed or troubled. Yet Ethan sensed that everyone knew the council had met. Their glances toward him carried curiosity, not unkind, but thoughtful. Mira arrived soon after, carrying a small basket. She greeted him with a warm but serious expression. "You slept well?" she asked. "Well enough," Ethan replied. "Did the council make any decisions?" Mira looked away for a moment, choosing her words with care. "They spoke for many hours. Your coming has stirred feelings that have been quiet for a long time. Some feel hopeful, others feel unsure. And what about you?" Ethan asked gently. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she handed him a small piece of fruit from the basket. "Eat first. Then we walk." Ethan followed her along the valley path. The air was cool, and the smell of plants and morning dew filled the space. They reached a quiet stream that flowed between smooth stones. Mira sat on a flat rock beside it, and Ethan joined her. "The council wants to understand your heart," she said calmly. "They want to know your intentions, not because you did anything wrong, but because this valley has lived in balance for many years. They want to protect that balance." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I don't want to cause any trouble. I'm grateful you rescued me, and I want to respect your community." Mira looked at him with a soft expression. "Respect matters to us. We saw it in you. That is why many are willing to listen." She paused before continuing. "But the outside world is a memory for most of us. Some remember it with worry, some with sadness, some with longing. Your presence brings those memories back." Ethan felt the weight of her words. "Do they want me to leave?" "Some do," Mira admitted gently. "They fear your arrival is a sign that more outsiders may come. They fear change. And the others? Others believe your coming is a message, a reminder that we cannot hide forever. They think perhaps the time has come to learn about the world again." Ethan breathed slowly. "What do you think, Mira?" "I have 1 marks excluding test drive. 1 marks exclude. Often 40. Often 46. She looked at the water, watching it flow around stones. "I think the world is large, and people are small. But people must still walk forward. Stillness is comfortable, but it cannot last forever." Her voice was soft, but her meaning was clear. Ethan sat quietly, letting her words settle in his mind. He felt honored by their trust, but also responsible. He had not chosen to change their world, yet simply by arriving, he had done so. After a long silence, Mira stood. "Come. The council wishes to meet with you." Ethan followed her to the largest clay building in the settlement. Inside, 7 women sat in a circle, each one older than Mira, each holding the calm strength of someone who had lived many seasons in the valley. The room felt warm, lit by small clay lamps placed along the walls. Mira guided Ethan to sit across from them. The first woman, who introduced herself as Sani, spoke in a gentle but confident voice. "Ethan Morales, we thank you for your sincerity and respect. We listened to Mira and the others who met you. Now we ask to hear from you directly." Ethan nodded, folding his hands in his lap. "Of course," Sani continued. "Tell us, what do you hope to do once you are healed?" Ethan hesitated. "I would normally return to my work. I study wildlife. I travel often. But after meeting all of you, I feel I should stay a little longer, if allowed. Not to disturb you, but to understand how I can help. You saved my life. I don't want to walk away without showing gratitude." The women exchanged quiet glances. The second council member, Riala, asked, "And if the world outside learns of us? Would you speak of this valley?" Ethan shook his head firmly. "Not unless you wanted me to. I wouldn't break your trust." Riala softened. "Trust is precious here. We do not offer it easily." A third councilwoman leaned forward. "Your presence brings questions to our young people. They ask what lies beyond the cliffs. They wonder if the world has changed. They wonder if they should change too." Ethan's voice stayed gentle. "Change can be frightening, but it can also bring growth. I don't want to push anyone, But if I can share knowledge that helps them understand the world better, I will." The women were quiet for a long moment. Finally, Sani spoke again. "Your heart seems honest. But our community must move carefully. Too quick a step can break something that took years to build." "I understand," Ethan replied softly. After more discussion, the council explained their decision. Ethan would remain in the valley for now, not as an outsider passing through, but as a temporary guest. He would be allowed to help with daily work, learn from their ways, and share what he knew, but only with respect for boundaries. His presence would be watched with caution, but also openness. When the meeting ended, Ethan stepped outside with Mira. The sun had risen higher, spreading warm light across the valley. "You carried yourself well," Mira said. They were pleased. "I hope I didn't say anything wrong," Ethan replied. "No," she smiled softly. "You spoke with truth. That is all we ask." Over the next days, Ethan slowly became part of their daily life. He helped carry water. Though the women insisted he move slowly because of his leg, he assisted Lyra in the gardens, where she taught him how to plant seeds the valley had relied on for years. He watched the younger women weave baskets, their hands moving with graceful skill, and they laughed when he tried and tangled the reeds. Children grew bold around him, asking endless questions about the outside world, what cities looked like, how far the ocean really stretched, what animals lived in forests they'd never seen. Ethan answered every question with simple, gentle words, trying not to overwhelm them with too many details. Each time he spoke, he saw their eyes widen with wonder, curiosity blooming like small flowers in their minds. But not everyone was comfortable. A woman named Hara often watched him from a distance. Her expression was not unkind, but cautious. One afternoon, she approached him while he repaired a small wooden frame with tools they had given him. "You bring light to some," she said quietly. "But light can confuse shadows." Ethan paused. "I don't want to confuse anything." Hara nodded slowly. "I know, but change begins softly. You are that beginning." She walked away before he could respond, leaving him thoughtful. As time passed, Ethan noticed another quiet concern growing among the community. The valley had been dry lately. Streams seemed lower than usual. Plants near the cliffs wilted slightly from lack of moisture. One evening, Selene, the woman who managed the water channels, asked Ethan to walk with her. They followed the narrow paths to the edge of the valley, where the stream entered. "The water is thinning," Selene said calmly but seriously. "It happens during warm seasons, but this year, it feels..." Ethan studied the land. He had spent years observing wildlife and natural patterns. He noticed small cracks in the soil, the slow trickle of water, the dryness in the wind. "It may be a sign," he said softly. "Sometimes nature warns us before a bigger challenge comes." Selene nodded. "That is why your arrival feels strange. As if one change arrived just before another." Ethan looked toward the tall cliffs surrounding the valley. He remembered the loose rocks, the canyon where he was injured, the shifting land. Something about the valley felt delicate, like it was quietly asking for attention. That night, as he returned to his sleeping place, he saw Mira sitting alone near the central fire pit, her face thoughtful. He joined her without speaking. "After a while," she said, "the council is worried. They believe the land is changing. The valley may not stay the same." "And they think my arrival is connected?" Ethan asked gently. "Perhaps not connected," Mira replied. "But it reminds them that life outside is still moving, even if we stayed still." Ethan watched the fire flicker softly. "If the land changes more, the valley might not remain safe." Mira nodded slowly. "We fear that." Ethan felt a quiet, heavy understanding settle inside him. His arrival was not the only shift happening. Something larger, something natural, was moving too. And soon, the community would have to face choices they had avoided for 15 years. The peaceful valley was still beautiful, still calm. But beneath the calm, something new was forming, a turning point that neither Ethan nor the women could ignore. And the true test had not yet begun. Ethan woke to a soft golden light filling the valley. It was peaceful, but something in the air felt different, like a quiet humming under the usual calm. As he stepped outside, he noticed Mira and several women gathered near the central garden, speaking in low voices. Their faces were thoughtful, their eyes drifting often toward the cliffs. Mira saw Ethan and walked toward him. Her expression was steady, but he sensed worry beneath it. "We must talk," she said softly. "The land is changing faster than we thought." Together they walked to the stream that ran through the valley. The water, once lively and clear, now moved slowly, its surface low enough to expose stones that had always been underwater. The plants near the banks looked thirsty, their leaves curling at the edges. Celine stood nearby, gently touching the water with her hand. When she looked up, her expression was calm but serious. "It has dropped even more," she said. "The whole valley feels dry." Ethan studied the landscape. "It may be a natural cycle, but it could also mean the land is shifting in a way that will affect everything here." Quote, Mira nodded. "The council believes we must prepare for the possibility that we may need to leave the valley." Ethan looked at her with surprise. "After 15 years? Leaving will not be easy for anyone," Mira said with a quiet breath. "This valley is our home, but we cannot stay if the land cannot support us." Ethan understood. He could see how much the valley meant to them, how every house, field, and pathway held memories. Leaving would feel like stepping out of a safe world into an unknown one. That afternoon, the council gathered again, and this time, they invited the entire community. Ethan stood near the back, listening silently as Sani spoke. "This valley sheltered us when we needed peace. It allowed us to heal, to grow, and to build a life together. But now, the land is telling us something. The water is thinning. The soil is hardening. We must decide whether to stay and hope, or to step toward something new." Some women looked hopeful. Others looked frightened. A few held their children close, unsure what the future might bring. Riala added, "We have lived here long enough to know the signs of the land. When it changes like this, it is asking us to listen. Ignoring it would not be wise." Hara stood slowly. "Leaving will be painful, but staying could bring greater hardship. We must think carefully." The room grew quiet. Finally, Sani turned toward Ethan. "You know the world beyond. You know how to travel safely. If we choose to leave, will you guide us?" Ethan felt the weight of the question. "I will do everything I can to help. You cared for me. Now I want to help care for you." The decision was not made that day, but by evening, many women gathered in small groups, discussing quietly. Some spoke about hopes beyond the valley, learning new skills, seeing new places, meeting new people. Others held on to memories, afraid to lose the comfort of home. Children, excited by the idea of seeing the outside world, ran around asking Ethan endless questions. "Are there mountains bigger than these cliffs? Do flowers grow in other colors? Is the sky different somewhere else?" Ethan answered gently, encouraging curiosity but keeping his tone calm. He did not want to make anyone feel rushed. 2 days later, the decision was made. The council called the community together again. "We will prepare to leave," Sani said. "Not because we want to, but because the land asks us to step forward. The valley gave us 15 years of peace. Now we must honor that gift by listening." The air filled with soft murmurs, some relieved, some emotional, some uncertain. Ethan saw tears in a few eyes, though no one cried loudly. Their sadness was quiet, like everything in their lives. Preparations began the next morning. Women collected dried food, wrapped blankets, stitched new bags, and repaired old tools. They worked together with gentle cooperation, helping each other pack what they truly needed. No one spoke of fear. Though Ethan knew, many felt it inside. Mira walked beside him as they moved through the settlement. "The younger ones feel excitement," she said. "They have always imagined the world beyond these cliffs. But the older ones, they feel the weight of leaving a place that protected them." Ethan nodded. "Change brings many feelings at once. But you're not facing it alone." On the 5th day, the community gathered at the base of the valley's main path. The sky was soft, the morning air cool. Each person carried only what they could manage. Children held hands, women supported one another, and the council stood at the front. Before leaving, they all turned to look at the valley one last time. It lay quiet, filled with gentle light, as peaceful as it had always been. The stream shimmered faintly in the sunlight. The clay houses stood still, as if listening to their goodbye. Mira whispered, "Thank you," as though speaking to the land itself. Then the journey began. The path out of the valley was long and winding, but Ethan guided them with calm steps. He made sure everyone moved at a slow pace, stopping often to rest. The cliffs, though tall and once intimidating, now held a different feeling, a boundary they were finally crossing after many years. Children pointed at birds, fascinated by new sights. Younger women whispered questions about what waited beyond the canyon. Older women walked quietly, their eyes reflecting memories of the life they had built. By midday, they reached the high ridge overlooking the world beyond. A wide stretch of land opened before them, rolling hills, long dry plains, and distant mountains rising gently in the horizon. The sight made the women pause. Many gasped softly. "It's so big," Rhea whispered. "So open." "It feels like a dream," another woman said. To Ethan, the landscape was familiar, but seeing it through their eyes made it feel new again, full of possibility and stories waiting to be written. They walked down the ridge together, step by step. Ethan stayed near the front, offering guidance on safe routes. Mira often walked beside him, her expression full of gratitude and determination. As the sun began to lower, casting golden light across the land, the group stopped in a small flat area where the ground was soft and the air felt cool. They built a simple camp, shared food, and rested. For the first time, the entire community slept outside the valley. Ethan lay awake for a while, listening to the gentle sounds of night. He thought about how far they had come, not just in distance, but in courage. 15 years of stillness had ended. Now their journey was beginning. In the morning, the group continued walking, each step bringing them closer to the world they had left behind. Some women asked Ethan about nearby towns, others about where they might settle. He promised he would help them find a place safe and comfortable, somewhere they could begin again without fear. As the journey continued, the women grew more confident. Their steps became lighter, their conversations brighter. They shared memories of the valley but also dreams of the future, learning new crafts, meeting new people, and teaching their children about the world. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with soft pinks and oranges, Mira approached Ethan. "You helped us take the first step," she said. "Without you, we might have waited too long. Maybe the valley itself brought you to us." Ethan smiled softly. "Maybe it did, and I'm glad it did." Mira's voice grew gentle. "We are ready now, ready to begin again, not hiding from the world, but becoming part of it." Ethan felt warmth in his chest. This community had shown him strength that spoke quietly but deeply. They had let him into their world, trusted him, and allowed him to be part of their new beginning. As the group prepared to move again, Ethan looked at the wide horizon ahead. It stretched endlessly, filled with light and promise. He knew the future would bring challenges, but also opportunities, and he knew the women, with their quiet determination, would meet each new day with courage. Their journey was no longer a story of isolation. It had become a story of hope, connection, and gentle transformation. And as they walked toward the future, the land around them glowed softly, as if welcoming them home.